World traveler, podcast host, and NYPD detective Mike Safo joins the show. Diamond Diehards is on. Joe Rizzo here bringing you baseball along with the dog, Jeff Healy. We are we're in 9/11 week, so we're going to still be sticking with some of the 9/11 stuff. It's a podcast, is Diamond Diehards, about baseball and about life. And in this one, we're going to do more life with a little baseball sprinkled in. So the things that you need to know as we get ready for all of that is that FMS Graphics is a family-owned, family-run business for the last 50 or so years. Check them out for all your printing and promotional needs, fmsgraphics.com, fmsgraphics.com for all your printing and promotional needs. Sports Maps with a Z, Maps with a Z, a great piece of art for your home, your office, or your home office. Check them out at sportsmapz.com. And when Dog heads up toward Bergen County, he's usually making a stop off at Big Ed's Car Wash in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Big Ed's Car Wash, a long tunnel. And Ed loves to brag about the size of his tunnel, Dog, does he not?
108 feet of car cleaning pleasure.
I got to look it up. It might even be a bit longer than that at certain times of the day. Get excited. Big Ed's Car Wash, Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Tell them Diamond Diehard sent you. So we snuck the dog in a little bit quick because we are going to have our guest, Mike Safo, deliver the Veteran of the Day. So, Mike, welcome to Diamond Diehards. And your first order of duty, you don't even get to say hello. You just get to jump into our Veteran of the Day.
Veteran of the Day, Army Sergeant. My grandfather, Carmine Cluna, served in World War II. He was in Italy for a few years and went to Germany for a couple of years. So that's the Veteran of the Day.
All right. So
awesome.
Thank you for that. I think we're off to a great start. So Mike and I have been kicking it around online here for probably a couple of months at this point. And I start noticing, well, I knew your name because I've been an Opie guy forever. Like, I mean, Opie and Anthony, Opie and Anthony and Jim, Opie and Jim, Opie Radio, all that. And then like your name comes up and I'm like here. And then all of a sudden, like I see you on Twitter and, you know, we just start talking. I think we were talking something about baseball. It was probably about the Yankees. And so Mike, basically, like, we'll start out a little bit with the baseball. You're a big Yankee fan, but it's sort of ironic because you don't seem to like to bet on your own team.
Never bet on my own team ever, because you never bet with your heart. And I'm not a big bettor to begin with. I'm not a big gambler. This is going to sound ridiculous, a horrible way to start the show. And I'm far from being rich, believe me. Money doesn't. I love my team so much that I don't care. Like, I was divorced. My wife left me after 9 months because of the Yankees. I'd rather, and like if the Yankees play a huge game, a big playoff game, I'll bet a ton of money on the other team because I'd rather the Yankees win. I don't care about the money. And after I go through my depression and I'm crying for a week, then I'm like, okay, I won X amount of money. So I bet against them a lot, knowing I'll be happier if they win. And if they lose, I'm crushed and you can't even speak to me. But then a week later, if I collect the money, I'm like, okay, I guess it's okay.
World traveler. You just got back from Peru, right? How many is that? Countries?
Number 83.
83 countries.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah, 11 this year, but I'm at 83 right now.
Wow. 83 countries. I don't even know anybody who's been to 83 states because there aren't 83 states, dog. Last time I counted.
There you go. Can't sneak it past Riz.
Yeah, you can't.
It's like getting a fastball by Hojo. Not going to happen.
So okay, so we get the your Yankeedom in, we get your world traveler in, and we started talking just before the show a little bit about your podcast, the Mike Safo podcast. Man, I tell you what, if you just like interviews and you just want to hear a couple of guys or people talking, I should say guys because your guests are very very varied, but you just like subscribe to Mike's podcast, the thing hits, and you click play, and they're like talking. They're right in the middle of it. There's no fancy intro. There's every now and then there's like the hot sauce ad, Go ahead. You could plug your boy. You could plug your boy for the hot sauce. Go ahead.
Oh, at Silk City Hot Sauce. That's my guy, Jeff. He makes good hot sauce and he sponsors my show. So he's my guy and I love his hot sauce.
Okay, so there, Jeff.
Perfect.
Jeff got a little bit of a plug right there, and we're partial to the guy's name Jeff. So I
Of
mean,
course.
Exactly. We love it.
um, but man, you just get right into it, and your guests are like eclectic. Like you have all kinds of different people doing that. But like, what pays the bills at the end of the day is your job as an NYPD detective. And by the way, so I stole a shirt from my son, and I made my
What's
wife
that?
like.
What's
I'm
that? Larceny?
It is. It is. Petty
like, yeah,
larceny.
it is. No, it was accepted. It was accepted. I mean, I couldn't get him to produce the show, but I got him to give me a shirt. So well, it
Blackmail.
was Dominic. It's Dom. This is Dominic's shirt. I'm wearing Dominic Rizzo's shirt. So he made the jingles for the show. So he always gets that credit. We gave Xavier the night off because he just started school and he was doing his own like production work at school for most of the night. So I had to give him off because he's got to get his homework done on the first night. But anyway, yeah. And then I go to my wife. I go, "Where's your NYPD hat?" She goes, I don't know, and it might be in the storage. I go, wrong answer. We got to get it. And I only have like 10 minutes. And she found it. So I'm wearing Debbie's NYPD hat, and she's got a couple of cousins, Mike and Nick Balsamo, that are, NYPD all the way. So I'm representing.
I love it. I love
And,
the hat and the shirt. I love it.
so let's talk about now let's get into the meat and potatoes. Um, by the way, it was very cool that you were messaging me back from Peru, the
Of
power
course.
of Twitter, which is really cool. But I just, what Dog and I really wanted to do, we did our Friday Night Live show ahead of 9/11, and we talked just a little bit about it. And Dog and I have talked about our own experiences in the past, which were not, on site or direct, but nonetheless we're New York, New Jersey, Connecticut guys, and it had a great effect on our lives. But we'd like to hear somebody who was right in the shadows of it as as a relatively young man, but not too young of a man to be involved. So if you want to just jump in on the poignant parts, I think that we'd be grateful to hear about it, Mike.
Yeah, everyone has a 9/11 story, and most of them are way better than mine. I was 19 years old, and I was a police cadet, which means that you're 21 when you become a cop. So I was like a trainer. Like I was still going to college, and I was working at the precinct, local precincts, and like doing paperwork, driving around with them, learning how to be a police officer eventually. It's like like an internship. You get paid a very little bit. And September 11th, I didn't have school. I had work that day at 12 o'clock. And, the planes hit. And naively, I was just watching Sports Center. I think they just broke in with like, they would do the little cutout. And my phone rings and it's the precinct. It's like, you have to report to work. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, and I really didn't grasp it. I'm still 19 years old, still in big party mode. And, then I'm putting on the news and my mom's freaking. Like she just gets so nervous. And every news station when it originally hit, it's like just say 10 o'clock. I believe one of the two, maybe the both buildings fell at that point. Like you got to come to work. And on the news, it's 10,000 dead. They're about to blow up the White House, the Hollywood sign. Initially, when it happened, we all forget. I went back a couple of days ago and I watched like the original news clips, and they were saying 10,000 dead. The Statue of Liberty. We didn't know, and thank God there wasn't social media at the time. And my mom drove me to work because I didn't have my own car and a little Chevy Cavalier. And I wasn't nervous, but she got me so nervous. And she's freaking out. Mike, call me because, the world's about to end. And I walked into the precinct and you would have thought it was a Tuesday in February. Everyone was so calm. And they were like, what's going on? I'm like, okay, what's up, kid? I'm like, bro, this is nuts. Like, yeah, okay, so here's what's going on. And they were so calm.
Oh.
And then at the same time, you hear the 911 calls. And the 911 calls, car accident, domestic dispute, like people still going on with their lives. Cops were still responding to jobs. And I said on Twitter, like, because I didn't do anything. I was just at work. Like, what am I going to do? Am I going to answer the phones? And you hear a few cops arguing, like, I have more time on. I'm more senior to you. And usually that means when you're more senior, you don't have to go to the crappy details. You don't get stuck with the bad arrests. And the senior people were volunteering to go, which is, very, that's not ordinary. If there's a huge riot, the senior guys don't want to go. And people were there, like everyone wanted to go. And the heroic stuff was, I witnessed people pick up their phone and be like, hon, I'm not gonna be home for a week. I'm not gonna be home for 2 weeks. Who knows? And just watching us walk across the street to the firehouse, the firemen come to the precinct. Are you guys okay? Are you guys okay? There's such how calm everyone was, like it was a normal day. As they were going back and forth to Manhattan, now it's like 12 in the afternoon, 1. They're going back. Everyone's just driving in, not knowing if they're ever going to come back. And everyone went there so willingly. It had this feeling of me like these guys are really ready to risk their lives on the spot because we didn't know what was happening. And I'll never forget as they're leaving, the van's leaving, and they all grabbed like a few bottles of water and they drove away. And I'm thinking like those dudes might not come back because you didn't know if they were going to blow up the bridge. And they're like, all right, guys, we'll see you later. And they went there like laughing, how cops do, just telling jokes, making it like everything was okay. And it just blew my mind. Like it just, I couldn't comprehend it.
Wow, that's just amazing, Mike. And it really speaks to just the professionalism all throughout it, right? And that's sort of the first thing, like, being trained, and you obviously know from your profession of just being able to, to compartmentalize and deal with, deal with the facts that are on the ground and whatnot. And I remember myself getting information overload. I was on a trading desk at the time, and I had a Bloomberg and a Reuters, which is like, every news service known to man, and everything in the world just like flying in. I remember the same thing with that, like, it's this, it's that. There's like 15 targets being listed all over the place, unknown numbers of dead, everything else like that. And this one's out there and that one's out there. And I got to imagine the crank calls that, do you guys get a ton of crank calls, anything like that on that first day, or was that only later that stuff started to come in?
Yeah, no, the first day to the precinct was just like my husband's there, my wife's there, my kid's there. So the prank calls weren't really coming to the precinct itself. They were going to 911, of course, but to the precinct, it was like, hey, listen, I live a few blocks away. I grew up on Staten Island, and they're like, my husband's there. And like we were in charge. Like I was a 19-year-old kid, and I'm like, okay, what's your husband's name? Knowing that I hate to say this, I was doing nothing with this information. Hey guys, I go look for this dude. So that was weird for me. Like I was like, oh my God, am I part of this? And then, a couple days later, I got, because I was only a cadet, I was only allowed to work, I think 12 hours. It was supposed to be 8 hours. They extended it to 12. I'd go home, I shower, I would sleep, I'd come to the precinct, and these dudes didn't go home for days. Like I'd come in and, I had a few really close friends there. And I'm like, hey, where's Steve and Joe and this one? They're like, oh, they're still over there. For 3 days. They're sleeping at the Burger King. They're sleeping in the van. And it's like, for them, it was like second nature. And that's really what made me want to continue the career of I'm like, these dudes, look how calm these people are. And I remember I would leave the precinct where you would think it was a Thursday, a rainy Thursday. Everyone's joking around, having jokes. And I'd go home and see my friends and my family. And everyone's like, oh my, and they're making it like, obviously it was the biggest thing, but they were so dramatic about the whole thing, not even being there. And I'm like, wow, like it's such a weird thing how calm they were and how everybody else was so frantic.
Wow.
It is it's an interesting juxtaposition kind of because we often hear the same thing about, a much more trivial thing in life, which is sports and professional athletes. Like that, fans often get mad. They're like, this guy doesn't give a shit. Like, he's just laughing after the game's over and they just had the most heartbreaking loss and whatever. But you know what? It's just different when you're in there and you're involved with it and you're seeing things up close and you're getting stuff behind the scenes that, most of the public, the overwhelming amount of the public is not privy to. Plus it's getting reported on, like in like you said, all the news reports and everything. There was so much erroneous and irresponsible reporting from the get-go. Like it's crazy. And that's sort of like one of my areas of expertise for a long time where, I'm not in really any official capacity, but like, just media scrutiny from, almost like an impartial view, like who's actually doing the work, who's not, who's reporting responsibly, who's not. And I mean, it just, in a way, almost, I feel like September 11th sort of kicked off so many of these things that have sent us down this crazy rabbit hole that we're in today, where it's all about being first, and then it's just doesn't matter. Like something happens and people are just saying things to get clicks or views, and you forget like 20 minutes later what somebody was just reporting, and you're like, wait a minute, you just said that this was happening and now that's clearly not happening. Like, are you retracting that? Like, what's going on? And I feel like so much of that really, I don't know if it started at September 11th, but it really became uh, a full circle deal, I think, about that time. You were coming off the craziness of the 2000 election, and there were seeds of it maybe that were planted there. And then September 11th, I almost feel like it was more out of fear than anything else, because Mike, I think what you really so eloquently portrayed was the fact that you're seeing the juxtaposition of fear versus the people who are going there and who were already. I mean, basically, I guess what the police force understood at that point was that, look, the damage is done. Now we just gotta, we gotta clean up all the mess here and just try to keep it together. Where the rest of us were like, you know, unsure of literally what the next moment was going to bring.
And also, two things. One, I want to backtrack with the always being first. The problem is there's no repercussions to that. I remember I was on vacation when Kobe Bryant tragically passed away. And within 30 seconds, his whole family was on the plane. There was another player, all three of his kids. And then, you found out it was just him and his daughter, which was tragic enough. But the people who posted this, two other kids passed away, and nothing, no big deal. You can delete the tweet or just ignore it. But you mentioned how they went there so like stoically, and they just went. You kind of have no option. It sounds like silly, but right now, just say the three of us are at a bar, and you hear, "Oh my God, a dude in the back has a gun." Right now, we're running out of the bar. But if you're wearing a uniform or if you're working, you have to run to the dude with the gun. Like we can't be like, "Nah, man, I'm not going to ground zero." So
That's the time.
sometimes, yeah, and the funny thing is like afterwards, like after I go to jobs when I was really young, and I would be like, "Oh, a man with a gun in Times Square." We would run, chase the dude. Where's the guy? And then we'd come back like, "Oh my God, how untactical was that?" We literally seven dudes ran down Broadway, like open targets, and at the end, I'm like, "Wow, that was really bad tactically." But your energy kicks in, you get the adrenaline kicks in. You're like, "Oh, that was really dumb."
Well, that turns into wisdom over time, right?
Yeah, of
If you
course.
if you get that chance. I mean, Riz, I will say one thing. I was in the guard at the time, and I mean, I think this ties in with you guys in the NYPD as well. Like, all the threats. Like, I mean, first thing we sort of thought was like, this might not be it. Like you're saying, like different
Mhm.
targets and stuff, but like that, the number one is local security on the first thing that. So that's it. Like you can't just focus. Like that is the thing. Like that could be step one, right? And NYPD still has to guard every other target that's in New York, right? And oh, by the way, that list just went from like 10 to what, 1,000 on the
Everything.
day.
I remember, Doug. I'm sorry to cut you off. I remember the list because they sent it to the precinct, and I'm like, okay, we're thinking Empire State Building, Statue of Liberty. Then they were giving us like Macy's, Toys R Us, and I'm like,
Yep.
what? And they're like,
Everything.
do you know how many people are in there? And we don't think about it. Like
Yeah.
Macy's is 7 floors in Herald Square. Toys R Us, FAO Schwartz. I'm like, oh my God. But I always
Yeah.
laugh. The one thing that always makes me laugh is these cops are suiting up, ready to go. Who knows if they're coming back? And one cop looks at each other and be like, they have you guarding so and so, and they were just making fun of each other as they're like, if you were like civilians on the street, like, oh, these two cops are like, they're ready to roll. Like, God forbid something happens. Meanwhile, they're the two biggest clowns in the precinct. They're like, they have you guarding Macy's, bro. We wouldn't even let you guard the bathroom.
Yeah,
Oh man.
look, I mean, it's like, right, it's like any other job. You have people that you would rely on for anything, for stuff that has nothing to do with your job. You're like, in life, like, I want to be next to that guy if the three of us are in a bar and somebody's like, somebody has a gun, right? Well, Dog's that guy for me.
Yeah.
And
Dog
now
that
you
guy for me too.
making me, yeah. Um, I'm like, somebody's
That's
got a
because
gun. I'm
that's
like,
because I'm wide and I can block it. That's
somebody's
what
got
it's
a gun.
at.
Dog, do something.
That's not.
Um, but yeah, it's like that. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like that in life, right? Like you meet those people, and we have these ideas that the police force, the military, the fire department, first responders, whatever, that that, I mean, they might be made of something different, but there's still like all those personalities and types, and personalities types and personality types, if that makes sense,
Mhm.
like those three things, that they all exist there, and you have to find your own dynamic within that universe. And it's just like when you have something like 9/11, it's just immediately the curtains just pulled back. Like you're just finding out what everybody's made of right off the bat. And I'm sure there were a lot of civilians that that ran in there and did heroic things. You hear about the man with the red bandana. We have my daughter's, through her hockey team, they have a very close connection with that gentleman, and that story's been, spread about the past few days here, which is pretty, amazing stuff. And Mike, I'm sure you're, in your job here over the last, almost 20 years, that you've been fortunate to work alongside a lot of the people who were able to return from ground zero or from the towers. I just wonder if the guys and the women in the force that had direct experience there, does it ever come up like on the anniversary, or are they more like, is it something that they prefer to not talk about, prefer to talk about? Like, what are your experiences with some of your colleagues there?
When I graduated the police academy in 2003, I went to work in Times Square for 6 months, and then I went down to the First Precinct, which is Soho, Tribeca, World Trade Center. So I was there, 2.5 years after everything happened, and every cop there was at Ground Zero 9/11 when it happened. So for me, I'm like, whoa, these are like the heroes. Meanwhile, I'm driving around the car with them, like they look at me like an equal. I'm like, this dude was there. And then none of them told stories about anything that happened that day. Not that I would ask. The big thing, 99% of cops don't brag about stuff. Like I've never told my family or my non-police friends any cool stuff I've ever done. Like I just don't, because I'm like, when you're trying to brag, I just never done it. And I remember one kid, we had a ceremony, you had to wear like the dress uniform, the dress blues. And this one dude who was like the biggest clown, his name was Sean, and he had on this great medal. I'm like, what happened? He's like, oh, I just got it from, I don't even remember. And I asked the other guys, and what happened was when the building came down, those, the whole tunnel of smoke was coming, knocking people down. And he took his gun out and started banging on a Burger King window, cracked the glass, pushed himself in, cut himself completely up, and let all civilians in. And he saved countless lives because the smoke came so hard, shrapnel, everything, glass came, and it shredded all the trucks and the cars. And if those people were standing there, they'd be dead. And he just knocked down the window, wasn't thinking through everyone in there, never once mentioned it to me. Sometimes on 9/11, you'll have people who were directly impacted. Like, this is ironic, but no cops from the First Precinct died that day. And it was their precinct. What happened, you don't know if it's a rumor, urban legend. All the cops are there and they're ready to run in there. Like, let's run in there right now. And one of the big bosses is like, no, we need you guys right now to stand here and get these people to the hospital. So most of the cops from the First Precinct, who I don't want to say should have, but 99% of them would have been in the building. If there's a fire, we're running into the building, the inspector or deputy inspector was like, no, you guys need to stay outside. Because when these people come out bleeding or falling, we need you to take them to the hospital. So he saved all their lives by telling them not to go in there. But sitting with them, when you met people from another precinct, like Maura Smith, she was the female who passed away. When you meet people from the 13th precinct who knew her directly, 9/11 is a messed up day for everyone. But when you knew someone directly who was there, but besides that, no one really talks about it. Like, it sucks. The day of September 11th, everyone does put on the dress uniforms. We stand in front of the precinct. We give a roll call of all the people who passed away. But besides that, it's not really talked about much, stuff like that. Just, I don't know why. It just never is. Maybe it's people holding their feelings in. Who knows? But you don't go around like, hey, what's your 9/11 story? No one really does that.
Dog, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I was I gotta go back to your original story and going in. How in the hell did you get your mom to drive you into Manhattan?
No. So I lived on Staten Island. So my precinct was on Staten Island.
I got you.
I was 19, and my mom's like, hey, jump in the
so she don't come there.
She drove me 10 minutes, and she's like, she was great. She's like, you have to go in. I'm like, yeah, Ma, I have to go in.
I'm sure she still wasn't thrilled about the whole drive.
Yeah, and no, it was a 10-minute drive. She wasn't happy. And my dad was a big motorcycle dude. He's like, to my mom, he's like, listen, he's going to work. Like, he's like old school. Like, he's going to work. He's a man. He signed up for this. Go to work. And meanwhile, my mom's like, don't even put the uniform on. Like, she was freaking. I think on the third day, I had to go there. Like, who wants to go? And I'm like, oh, I do. Like, the morbid curiosity. And I remember they loaded up the truck. I'm like, this is like so badass. And we got to drive in. We got to deliver water and stuff. Like, we were the water boys to the real heroes, but it was cool being down there. But I wouldn't even tell my mom I was going there. I was 19 working for the police department. And I'm like, "Nah, Mom, I'm just answering the phones," because like I still didn't have the courage to tell her I was driving down there.
By the way, it also marked the first time in the history of Staten Island that somebody got from point A to point B in 10 minutes. It never happened before, and it never
Ever in
happened
history.
since. But it
Ever in history.
happened
That's
that
right.
That
day.
is true. Oh man.
So you do that, you go, let's, maybe we just put a little bow on it. I mean, we don't have to go too crazy here. I mean, I think we got the feel. I think that's what we were trying to give our viewers and listeners a little piece of. But that's just a little slice of Mike Safo. So if you started in 2003, I know that I've rarely met a cop who wasn't keeping the timer going until until retirement day. So do you have the years, months, days, and minutes counter going on somewhere?
No. 22 months. 22 months and 13 days. As of right now, yes. Right now, July 1st, 2023, I'll be retiring. But who knows? If I get a good gig, if I get who knows? But right now, my things to retire in 22 months.
Okay, so what happens? Like you're 83 countries, which who knows what you're going to get up to by the time that retirement becomes like an actual option, right?
Mhm.
You're a young guy, um, and you have like this pretty diverse look. Every cop worth his salt always has a side gig. You got like five.
I do.
Like, so how do you decide, after retire, like, are you starting to plan out for 22 months from now?
Yeah, I am. So what I want to do is I'm going to live internationally abroad for 6 months out of the year. Uh, well, right now the plan is this: I'm retiring. I'm going to go to the Philippines with my wife for 6 months, live on the beach in Palawan, and then I want to teach English overseas for 6 months. So anywhere from China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Italy, Germany, and then live here somewhere in the United States for 6 months and go back and forth. That's the plan now. Um, I know you guys mentioned children. I have no kids. I'm not a big fan of kids. I'm pretty selfish, to be honest with you. So I have no kids.
Self, you've been a cop for 20 years. Come on, now stop. You're just smart. That's all.
I came on at 19. And I'm like, this dude has to give how much money to his ex-wife for these kids? And I would see their checks. I'm like, yeah, I'm not having kids.
You're the one guy who listened to all the veteran cops there.
That's what they always say. They're like, you're the old, like you got married. We told you not to get married the first time. They're like, but no kids. I'm like, yeah, no kids to me. So right now that's the plan. But the plans change all the time.
Oh, dog it, I know. Man plans, and God laughs. That's how Dog has 6 kids and I have triplets. Although we both live by the go big or go home.
I see that.
We don't just that's not idle chatter. Like, that's not bullshit. Like, we actually do that. We're known as the guys in the group who do that.
There you go. So the 83 countries. I'd love to hear more about this. So kind of what started you on that kick? Like, where'd you kind of go at first and whatnot, and how'd you get the hook of international travel?
Yeah, I'll give you the quick story. Never traveled growing up, never been on a plane. The first time I was ever on a plane was a junior in high school. Went to Cancun, Mexico to party like junior prom.
Good start.
Yeah, great start.
Yeah.
And then I went there again senior year. I had so much fun. And then went to Toronto for WrestleMania to watch the Expos play. I want to watch. And then that was it. Never traveled again. First marriage I went to Disney one time, Chicago, Vegas, maybe like 5 flights. And then and just never, I became a cop and I'm like, you know what? I want to go somewhere. Let's go to Amsterdam. You're 21 years old. You want to go to Amsterdam.
Uh-oh.
We go to Amsterdam. But again, what's funny? This was 2004. I don't want to say the internet wasn't around. I didn't know what to do. I landed in Amsterdam, my boy. And I'm like, I didn't know the Anne Frank house was there. I didn't know Van Gogh paintings were there. And I had a miserable time. Like, we drank, but I'm like, we stayed at like a luxury hotel. And I'm like, what do we do? Like, this traveling sucks. Like, who thinks this is cool? I didn't know the Anne Frank house was there. Like, how embarrassing is that? And then maybe, fast forward till around 2000, I'm going to say 9 or 10, 2010, I get married for 9 months, divorced over the Yankees. And I get transferred to a new precinct. And I met a dude who's like, yeah, I'm going to the Philippines for a bachelor party. I'm like, can I come? I didn't even know the dude. He's like, yeah, it's like 18 Filipino kids. I'm like, I want to go.
His name wasn't Boomer, was it?
No,
Okay.
Friend of the show.
Sorry, go ahead.
Boomer
Sorry,
might have
go-
been there. So the guy's like, here's my phone number if you decide to come. And I went home next day. I booked a flight. It was crazy money. It was the day before. Flew to the Philippines by myself. Met him there. Came back, had like a 2-day layover in Dubai. Enjoyed traveling. And I'll fast forward it now. And then I was just with one of my boys. And I'm like, yeah, I want to go to Iceland. Went to Iceland together. Then we'd like, hey, let's go to Europe a couple of weeks later. We did Europe, like Amsterdam, Prague. And I did it right. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, look how cheap it is. You can fly from Paris to Munich for $21 in Europe. So we would go for like these 5-day week. You know, like cops get like 2 days off, then 3 days off, 2 day, 3 days. We take the 3 days, and I would go to Germany for a day, or London for 2 days. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I'm like, you know what? I want to expand. I don't want to just do London, Paris,
Usual stuff. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm like, let's go. I went to Thailand for 2 weeks, and that's what changed it. It was the food and the girls, and it was how cheap it was. I'm like, I could stay in this sick hotel for $18 a night. And then I started going to more and more countries. And I'm like, wow, I'm at 41 countries. And I'm like, who wants to go to some crazy countries like North Korea? And everybody's like, what? I'm like, I want to start going there. And it didn't start really traveling until I did it by myself. You know, Joe Dog, we can be like, hey guys, let's go to Egypt. And everyone has a few beers. Like, yeah, let's go Egypt next week, next month. Then when it comes down to it, I can't go. I have this. Let's do it. And then I'm like, F this, man. And I just started booking trips by myself. And I started going. I went to Saudi Arabia by myself, and Oman, and I just got back from Afghanistan, and I went to all these places by myself. And then I'm like, this is great. And I'm like, oh crap, I'm at 60. I'm at 65, 70. I'm at 80. So now and I met all the guys. I got very lucky by doing the podcast. I met the guys who's been to all 193, and they're giving me tips, and they give me their visa guys and this, and I just love it. I'm like obsessed with it. 2 months ago, went to Afghanistan for 2 days. Was supposed to be there for a week. You know, shit went down in Kabul. I got dropped off like at the Uzbekistan border, crossed the border. I'm like, oh, 2 more countries crossed off. So that's how I think. It's crazy.
Wow.
But I love it. I love it so much.
Just a little side note, Mike. I want to keep you in frame there because you're like a little. You're a little bit you keep leaning a little bit.
Because the mic's here. Sorry, hold on.
Yeah. So if you could, I want to keep you in frame. Every now and then we just get one eye.
Okay, hold on.
I was waiting for the Amsterdam. Our intern just went over to Amsterdam for the semester. So my daughter went over there. So I was like, okay, here we go.
No, safe, beyond safe. It really is. It's the safest place. I would live there. Have you been there yet?
I have not. So.
Oh, gorgeous, great food, great environment. You sit on the canals, have some beer, have some food. Amsterdam's gorgeous. I would live there. That's how beautiful it is.
Nice. It does look very pretty. I've already seen a couple of video shots from her. But
yeah, gorgeous. You have nothing to worry about.
Yeah, we just want to keep the substances, under moderate control. That's more where I'm going. Actually, I'm sure the city's lovely.
You know what I felt from the people I met there, and I meet a lot of people like when I'm there because I don't shut up. I just talk to anybody, and I travel alone. The people I meet there, they don't go out and smoke a ton of weed. How we would think, oh, weed's legal, mushrooms illegal, because it's there all the time.
It's what's there, right?
Yeah, like when you go to Munich, us idiots, we go there and we like, give us 5 of the huge German mugs, and they're like, dude, relax, you can drink it all day. Like we have like 4 during lunch. We're sleeping by 2:30, and that's the difference. So when it's there, they're not gonna. She won't go crazy with it. Trust in her.
All right.
That is funny. That is funny. That reminds me of like my friend Jake. So I love. I'm not much of a sports gambler, but I love betting on the horses, and I worked at Daily Racing for him for a long time. So I'm like, I get. It's a great way to just blow your money, because there's like the races. The races are like a minute and a half. Like you make your bet. Like Mike bets against the Yankees, and he's got to wait for like 3 hours, and if they're playing the Red Sox, he's got to wait for 4. Me, it's like 2 minutes later, boom, we either won or we didn't. So, on one like particularly big day, the way it is with horse racing, like the days like the Kentucky Derby, whatever, it's not just that race. It's like the people who are like all in, or they like it because all the newbies are coming in and they're throwing $2 here, $10, 20, 100. And it's like stupid money. They bet on horses because like, the horse is named,
Boomer.
Jack.
Boomer's nag.
One-eyed Jack, So So like we love it because then like on those days you can get better odds on like really good horses. Where usually like if they're in these races, they're bet so far down that they're favorites, and you don't really win so much betting on favorites. So I had it like lined up one day. I was gonna hit this race, and like I had handicapped the shit out of this thing like for more than a day, which for me is big. Like these guys get it, and they're looking at these races 4 or 5 days in advance. Me, it was like a day in advance, and I was like studying it. I was pumped. I'm like, I am like gonna take this down, whatever. And the horse loses, and I'm just like crushed. I'm like so pissed. I'm like, oh man, like I had it. Like this was gonna make my whole year of bankroll. And my friend Jake just deadpans to me. He goes, Joe, there's another race in like 20 minutes, right? just like deadpanned it right there. And I'm like, yeah, I guess there is. But like that was my race. Like I didn't care about the next race. It was this one.
But that's scary though, because then you're chasing the money. It's too easy to chase the money. If you bet
Well,
football on Sunday, you lose the 1 o'clock games. You got the 4, you got the 8. When you bet horses, you can go all 14 races. You go to big hole there. You're chasing that money.
yeah, but the first rule of betting is that you're going to lose.
Yeah,
That's
always.
the first rule.
Always.
Like, once you get that rule to, like, if you gamble, you're going to lose. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you'll win something, whatever. But like with horse racing, you could lose like 19 in a row. But if you're playing it smart, the one time you hit out of those 19 will easily make up for those. At least like my goal every year is just to be even and have played for free.
Yep.
And one day I might achieve that.
I'll say every time's that happened.
That hasn't happened yet. This year is the closest. I have a little bankroll heading into the Breeders' Cup, and if I actually study it and I'm not stuck calling girls hockey on the weekend of that day, which I'm not sure if I will or will not be, but that's a day where I'm usually I'm such a homebody. Like I love doing stuff with my kids, and ask Dog. Like it's like pulling teeth to try to drag me to even just go out for like a beer somewhere or whatever. But that day I'm like, everybody get the hell away from me. I'm in front of my computer losing all my money on horse racing today. Just clear the way, guys. That's it.
Hey, I went down to church group down to Monmouth. I bet like 4 or 5 races. I won a couple. I'm done. I'm done for life. I'm up.
Yeah.
I'm up.
Up forever.
I'm good.
So you got divorced over the Yankees. Like how did I never hear that one? That's it.
Is that all it takes?
we met, and I was young. Grew up in an Italian family. Was okay. Go to school, get a city job, get married, have kids. Went to school, got a city job, met an awesome girl. We never lived together. Jersey girl, and we moved in together. And the truth, I'm obnoxious with the Yankees and Kentucky basketball. Obnoxious isn't even the word. Like I'm embarrassed sometimes. Like my wife now, I'm like, I'm sorry. Like I'm sorry. I just screamed during the second game of the year. I'm like, I don't like. It was just opening day this year. I flipped out, and it was 2009. Ironically, they won the World Series that year, and I was like, we had a 3-story house, like basement. I'm in the basement, and it wasn't finished, so the TV was down there, and I was breaking stuff while they were losing. Like I was punching my TV, ripping magazines. Like I'm 2 years old, like punching the table. And she walks downstairs. She's like, I can't live this way. And she said to me, listen, look at me in the eyes. Meanwhile, like Rivera's pitching, I'm trying to give this double look. And she's like, look at me. She's like, Mike, would you trade this marriage for 3 championships? And she actually said that to me. And like I'm like, are you kidding me? I would leave you for 1. And I swear my mother's life. And she storms out. She slams the door, and like a picture falls off the wall. And my mom calls me. And I'm like, oh crap. She knows not to call during the Yankee game, so something must be going on. She, can you tell your wife? I'm like, yeah. And she came home. And the truth, that was after like 6 months of marriage. Maybe like 2 months. Oh my God, that was like 2 months of marriage. And after that, it never really got back. And I think she realized that she could. And I told her, like, I'm like, I can never love you as much as I love the Yankees. I can't. And I didn't lie to her. I'm like, I don't love you as much as I love the Yankees. I'm embarrassed to say it, but it was the truth. She's like, all right, this isn't working. I'm like, it's not. Let's go for the holidays. And then spring training comes along, and that was it. And we really got divorced. If you ask me now, obviously I'll say her mother-in-law, and she'll say this and that, but the crux of it was the Yankees and my love of sports. That's how sad it is.
Hey,
I mean,
marriage is built on honesty, right? That was
it
it.
is.
And
Yeah,
right,
and
that's the best thing possible, right? Just boom.
When I
This
met
is
my
it.
wife, I told him like I love sports. Oh, she's like, my brother-in-law loves the Yankees. I'm like, no, like you don't understand. I'm like, I missed funerals and I missed weddings. My brother wanted to get married on 10-10-10. And he told his wife, he's like, listen, he goes, I don't even know how to say this. My brother won't go if there's a Yankee. And she goes, what? And, you know, and even though it would have been the ALDS, he's like, he won't go. Like, yeah. So I'm trying to get better, but I'm not. I'm not. It's sad.
Wait, but that's not true because I know this, but maybe anybody. First of all, follow him at Mike Safo, Safo. You haven't watched a game since what, April?
In the middle of April, I stopped, and there was something. I'm embarrassed to say this. I truly am. I'm saying I'm embarrassed a lot about my sports fandom, but I am. This is the first time. I didn't care if they lost 50 games in a row. I would be upset, but I never missed a game. There's something with this team. And I don't know if it's Boone, too much Boone, or Cashman's been around too long, or how everyone strikes out. And there was just something I just disliked about this team from last year and going into this year. And a lot of it was opening day when they had bases loaded like 4 times. They couldn't get that run in the bottom of the ninth. And I was like, I hate this team. I just don't like anything about this team. April, I had AT&T streaming and I canceled it. And I'm like, you know, I can't watch them. That was it. And the only game I watched full was the Field of Dreams game. And that was the worst game of the year. That was brutal. But I remember like I was on vacation in Cyprus and I'm like, I check every score. I check the scores nonstop. And they're beating the Astros. That's when Altuve hit the walk-off. And I'm like, oh, they're up by like 6 runs this game. And I woke up, no. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. So I stopped watching for the first time and it bothers me. I'm like, wow, I'm the greatest fan. Well, I'm the worst fan. I'm the biggest fan in the world. And I stopped watching them. So yeah, I can't do it.
He was waiting for Torres to go back to second base.
Oh yeah. Then
we were talking about that. That was it.
But I actually agree with that. Just first of all, he can't play shortstop. I think it's opening to think like, okay, next year we're going to sign a big free agent shortstop. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, hey, why not wait till 18 games left to make this move? We didn't see this since game 6.
I don't know. Can anybody see a problem here? you have 4 second basemen, no shortstops. I don't know.
Listen, we'll toot our own horn, but I begged you to listen to that show that we did about April 27th. And guess who was talking about getting Globetrotting off a shortstop? I actually even before that, I think Dog, you were talking. Dog was talking about that.
I was killing Torres in short. Yeah.
Before the season started.
Yeah.
Like you have 3 second basemen and only one of them is playing second base.
Then you got another one.
Yeah.
It's like okay.
Yeah. But look, I mean, we've had this whole thing laid out for the Yankees. So this is like what we start to talk about is like, look, there's a lot of podcasts out there. They talk about stuff. They're experts. They're not experts, whatever. What makes us different? This is what makes us different. We predict the future. So I think that's pretty good. Like that's pretty good value in a podcast. Like
where's the prop better getting Torres off his short? We should have had that.
I mean, it's literally in our archive. Like we're not making it up. Like we went back and did a whole show just to prove that we're not lying. That I was talking on April 27th about that the Yankees had to get Anthony Rizzo. And like they got him.
And standing in the outfield.
And standing in the outfield.
Which is
crazy. And Judge in center.
Yeah, Judge in center. That was a big, I'm like, I don't know about that one.
That was Rizzo, that one was good. Yeah. That was a little contentious during the show on that one. Like, yeah. I don't know about Judge there.
Yeah, but I said he doesn't have to be that good there. He just has to be like okay because the problem, like we talk about Cashman and you talk about the way that the roster is constructed and you talk about Boone, but I mean Boone basically is a function of everybody that's above him, right? Like he's there for that reason. So if you fire him, you're only going to get a replacement that's even probably more robotic and has been around less baseball. I mean, Aaron Boone is a 3rd generation major leaguer, and his brother, like he's got a sibling that was, a star player who also has a really good podcast, by the way. I don't know if I'm like, I shouldn't like sit here plug podcasts other than Diamond Diehards or the Mike Safo podcast, but that Boone podcast is friggin' good, man. He gets so many people. He had friggin' Albert Bell on. Who has Albert Bell? Like who? He had Kevin Mitchell on. Like, but like he's got baseball pedigree. Like, dude, Aaron Boone is not sitting in the dugout not knowing what the fuck he's supposed to do. Like, I'm sorry. Like, and I
Really?
know,
I don't know.
I don't
There's
know, man.
sometimes he's sitting there
No,
with
they,
not knowing.
but he's there because that's what like he's doing what Cashman is asking him to do, which he's a function of the nerds and the geeks, and he's not he's he's not completely like without blame, but to like lop it all on him, like I think Cashman would have much more to blame because he's constructing the roster the way that he
Yeah.
is, and then his team of analytics experts or whatever are telling the manager like what the main suggestion and function should be for this game on this day in this inning, whatever, and then I don't know how much leeway he really has of saying, all right, this is going to go against the book, but like this is the move right here. And if you really look, like there are moves that he does make now and then that are kind of against the book, but like we don't know. Like Mike was saying, this goes all the way back to the beginning, where Mike was talking about things that I'm surprised like to hear about the way that your fellow officers when you were a cadet were acting behind the scenes in 911. Like I've never heard, I honestly have never heard that. Like you gave me something totally new and I wasn't expecting you to say that at all, but then when you said it, it made complete sense. Well, there's so much happening behind the scenes in the Yankee front office and all these other front offices that we really don't know where the blame actually lies. But once you get up to Cashman, I think that's a reasonable place to say, yeah, this is the way that he wants it. This is the way that it's going. That's the guy that he put in there because he took Girardi out when Girardi was this close, with this group of guys. Nobody got closer than Girardi with this group of guys. They've only regressed since then. So, and they were supposed to be even closer. So, I don't know. I'm not a Boone hater. I kind of like I wouldn't want to piss on a guy that has that much, major league pedigree. Like Major League Baseball is all that guy's ever known since he was a kid running around you know, in major league dugouts on the, at the vet when the Phillies were winning the World Series in '80, you know?
But the two things that bother me about that, excuse me, is maybe as a man, we want to see a leader. So let's go back to 9/11. If all the cops are fooling around like, oh, and then, the sergeant comes down and he's fooling around and lieutenant comes down and just say the captain comes down and gives a horrible order. Like all you guys run the building. If that lieutenant's not like, oh, guys, come here. You're not running in the building. You want him to be a leader. So Cashman might be giving him this shit advice or whatever he's giving him. You want your guy to be a leader. And be like, absolutely not. I'm leaving Cole in for another inning. I'm not going to say that this guy that's 250 in the daytime. I don't want to hear that. I want him to be a leader and make his own decisions. That's what I want. And you use the perfect word, regression. How much has this team regressed? Everyone. Remember a few years ago, they were saying it's Vlad Jr., it's Torres, it's Soto. Torres isn't even near the conversation anymore. Every dude has regressed. Some of that has to come to Boone. Like it has to. He's the manager. No one is exceeding their expectations. That's what bothers me a lot. And his pedigree is impressive, way more impressive than mine playing MLB The Show. But you want him to be a leader. You want guys to play hard for him. And I just don't see they do. I just don't think they respect him. That's my opinion on it.
I don't know. What he goes out there, a couple of years ago, and he's yelling at the ump saying, "My guys are fucking animals." Like
savages.
Savages. Oh yeah, they're savages in the box. Like that's not showing leadership. Like I don't know. I kind of like we heard this stuff about Girardi that like he lost the team and that Sanchez wouldn't listen to him, whatever. And that I've never heard that once about Boone. But of course, like the last two seasons, we don't have reporters that are embedded with the team. Like they're not talking to anybody directly. Like and our buddy is Mike Puma who covers the Mets for the New York Post. And like Puma's trying to get himself as much access as he can, and nobody works harder than that guy. When it comes to baseball, period. I mean, there might be others who work as hard, but nobody's worked harder than Mike Puma trying to get stories and information and turning it into great copy. And even he is like, you're stuck on Zooms and you don't have that one-on-one stuff. So we've really we know less of what's going on now than probably like we ever have, which is ironic in this world of, so much mass media where, basically like, I mean, right now, if we wanted to tweet, if we tweeted 50 players in the majors, right? Like, say we just sent a tweet to every Met and Yankee that was on Twitter, like, we might actually get a response from one of them. Like, somebody might say something back to us, and acknowledge our
Mhm.
existence, and we're just fans, right? So, um, it's just ironic that like we know less about what's going on in these locker rooms. Like you don't hear anything about there being strife or guys respecting or not respecting Boone. But like my sense is that guys that wore the uniform, and he wore the major league uniform, you know, with distinction for a long time. Like I think those guys just get respect. I don't think he's a clown in the locker room and in the dugout. I think he stands up for his guys, and I think they like and respect him. So I don't know. I just of course Dog knows this. Like, but I'm pretty forgiving.
I'm
Like,
totally with Mike on this one.
no, I know. I know. I'm saying
He's a
you know how I am.
shill. He's not doing anything. Come
You know
on.
how I am. I'm always like not quick to like until you find me a better solution, I'll kind of just deal with the problem the way I got it right now. Like and I generally like to I prefer to see the good in people and the positive, and if there's something there that needs to be fixed, then fix it. By the way, we didn't even talk about this Yankee Met
Oh, you're going there.
craziness.
Oh,
of
you're
the-
going
of
there.
the-
Oh,
of the
boy,
weekend.
Oh boy! Oh boy!
Of
Oh
the
boy!
weekend. Dog, can I just remind you that
I thought we were going to keep this nice and cool, folks. On the mic here, but oh boy!
no, I'm saying we didn't even talk about it, but like, what was
true.
Boone? Where was Boone in it? Is my point. Like, did you see any negative or positive from Boone throughout that? Throughout that whole thing that was going on in the weekend, where you had the whistling, and then you had the guys emptying the dugouts and the jawing and everything. Like Boone's name never came up in any of that, but like his guys were ready to jump up and do things. So.
Yeah, I mean him and Rojas basically they both said the right sorts of things, like with this, that, whatever. They tried to kind of calm it down. They weren't really amping it up, which probably the right move, right?
Yeah,
For
as
both those
fans,
guys.
we want them to amp it up like it's a big fight,
I
like it's
loved
Fury
it.
Wilder. Boone's like, oh, it's a gut punch. He's the same 10 quotes. He looks on the wall, gut punch lost today. So it's the same thing with him. But as fans, we want to be like Wilder, Fury, and we want them just to curse each other. But yeah, Boone was nothing.
What would Lasorda have done?
Oh, boy.
Even Buck.
Zim would have been out there. Zim would have been out
Of
there.
course it would have been.
Oh, yeah.
Those old school guys would be running out there.
Lou Piniella, Larry Boa.
Bobby V would be out there with the glasses.
Yeah. LaRusse would be waddling out there like he did a couple weeks ago.
Little hammered. All right, so Mike, how are we going to fix the Yanks so you can finally start watching them again?
Well,
what is the safe open?
I think it's going to sound stupid. Boone and Cashman got to go. And deep down, and this is what I get called I get called the worst fan ever. I don't want them to make the playoffs this year. I don't want the playoffs because then it's very easy to be like, hey, we had COVID, we had injuries, and we still made the playoffs. I don't want that. I don't want to get eliminated in the first in that game. We'll go the ALDS with Cole pitching once. I don't want that. Don't make the playoffs. Get embarrassed. I want them to lose 13 out of 18. And people call me a horrible fan. Why are we gonna like just float in mediocrity? Like the Knicks. Remember the Knicks back? Oh, we're around 500. We'll be the 8th seed. No, tank. Let's get some.
This sounds like the Mets for a couple decades.
Yeah, you're right though. You're right.
Yeah, let's just try to win 78.
Yeah, I don't want that. I want the Yankees to get embarrassed, make change. Listen, as fans, we're idiots. We want every player. But I remember being on Twitter and fans were begging, like crying. We want Michael Brantley. We just want a guy who's going to not strike out. That's all I want to see. I don't care if we lose at this point. Just stop striking out. And go get Gallo, and then have to hear all the nerds. Oh, but he walks this many times. I don't care, man. Like, I'm watching him. He strikes out too much. Judge and Stanton are playing great. I'm looking at this team. I see a lot of holes, man. How about yesterday before the game, like 10 hours before the game, the Yankees didn't know who was pitching against the Mets in September? That's alarming that we didn't know who the pitcher was. And my last things with Cashman, Tanaka wants to come back. Listen, I'm not in the negotiating room. But to go sign these guys like Kluber, he tries to get these bargain, dumpster diving guys. It just seems that he always makes the wrong move. Always. I love Giambi more than anything. And I read, I think it was the Yankee years, and they were saying that the Yankees were like, no, dude, we need Johnny Damon. We don't need Giambi. Giambi's the name, but Damon's going to win us the title. And Damon won the title, with Boston. And those little things. And last year, like he tried to be the Rays. Like, dude, you're the Yankees. Outspend everybody. That's why people hate us. We're assholes. Outspend everybody. Go get me every pitcher on the market. I don't care what they want. Go get me Bauer. Go get me everyone who's available. But he's not available now, but get me everyone. That's what the Yankees do. The Yankees don't try to outray the Rays. That's not how you play the game. And I feel that he's confused. What do I want to be an analytical guy? Okay, I'll give Cole $500 million, but I'm gonna go cheap with this one. It just seems that I think he's a little confused what he wants to do, and that's just my opinion as being a couch fan. I'm gonna sign Kluber, but why are you gonna sign Kluber? But I'll give Cole $200 million. I just feel like he doesn't know what he's doing. I obviously he does, but I'm not confident anymore that he makes the right moves.
We talked about that actually with the pitching and and beginning of the year. That was one of the critiques that we had. We identified it was like a big risk, and I agree with your analysis, right? That the Yankees tried to go for too many value plays in the pitchers. And it's like you can stitch that together, but again, that's like what the Pirates do, right? So they had 7 or 8 guys who were kind of coming back, and they could be really good or they could be not so good. And for a while, it was kind of they were kind of doing okay, but then they start to fall off along the way. And like you laid it out perfect. Like what did you need to act like the Dodgers. Like what are the Dodgers doing? Like, oh, they signed Trevor Bauer, they gave him all this money. Oh my God, they got so screwed. Like, what did they do? Did they just go and like get Rich Hill? like I guess oh no, let's bring in Scherzer.
Yeah.
And tell them to bring Turner while he's with it.
You see, Dog, you're right.
And that's what they do. And guess what they are.
And that's why the Yankees, the Pavano signing, when they signed Carl Pavano, the worst signing ever. The Yankees, Igawa, okay, and then nothing. So with the Yankees, we write it off. And I sound like cocky. It's not my money, but that was the Yankees' way. It's not like I'm not telling the Pirates or the Royals to go do this. Go buy it. But that's what the Yankees always done. So I guess I'm the spoiled baby. I'm the spoiled brat. If I see, Trevor Story and Carlos Correa and Seager, sign them all. That's how the Yankee fan thinks. Not like, all right, let's see if we can sign this guy to a 1-year deal, bargain buy this pincher. Oh, but you know what? Let's give $500 million to Cole. Yeah, I don't like what he's doing. Either go all in or don't.
Yeah. Well, I think you get caught too. You have to look at the lengths of these contracts and the ability to get out from under them, and say like, are we gonna actually cut players? Are we gonna stay with these players? I mean, when they're presented a deal of Giancarlo Stanton with that contract, but at pennies on the dollar, when the guy hasn't even hit 30, it's kind of hard to like fault Cashman for taking that deal. But that deal probably has much more to do with every other deal that they've made as a result since it happened, because say they never make that deal for Stanton, right? Maybe they do sign Michael Brantley. They probably still make the deal for Luke Voit. Guess what? The Luke Voit deal looks even better, because then if you have Brantley there as your DH and sometimes playing in the outfield, you don't really have to bring in Rizzo, because you really need the left-handed bat, and he helps you with the glove and all those other things that Rizzo does, besides just being cousin Anthony. But having Stanton there means that, as great as the Voit deal was for a while, that's a spot where you're better off having a guy like Rizzo, even if he doesn't produce. It sounds crazy. Even if Voit outproduces him numbers-wise, Rizzo gives you more as a team. His numbers are going to be close enough that, with his edge on defense and the fact that he's a left-handed bat that you could bat right and anywhere in that top 5, it just opens up your versatility to do so many more things. So he's sort of, he was kind of victimized by the fact that Stanton, over those other teams, said he would accept a deal to the Yankees, but now he's got to work with it. And Mike, your point about like how does that explain the pitching then? Yeah, you have a point, but at the same time, there's kind of like if you're the Yankees, like there really is no reason to not take a shot on guys like Kluber and Tyone, because if you hit on guys like that, you hit huge. And maybe they were offering them, they offered those guys, and those guys are, in the $10 million plus range for a year or two, whatever they have. I mean, Tyone was a trade, I think, right? And Kluber was a free agent. So there's not that much risk, but like, are the Royals going to take a risk like that? Probably not. Like the Indians obviously weren't going to do it. So some teams, like it's kind of smart in a way that they're really not risking much to get potentially a lot. And I mean, listen, I wasn't complaining when Corey Kluber threw a no hitter this year.
No, and two things on that. The Stanton thing, it's like we don't want to spend this crazy money. We should have got Bryce Harper. He wanted to be a Yankee. He waited till basically opening day to sign because he wanted to be a Yankee. Everyone knew that. When he was in Vegas on the cover of Sports Illustrated, we knew he wanted to be a Yankee. My issue is I don't mind the crazy contracts, and it's again not my money. But look at the 09 team: Teixeira, Burnett, Sabathia, Swisher. Those guys won one title. We spent what, $500 million? They're all revered now. AJ Burnett was pretty bad, but meanwhile he won the title. Pitched that one great game against Phillies. He's a god here. So I'm okay with giving Stanton the money. And you mentioned the pitching. I have no problem taking flyers on Kluber and JMO. If we had a number 2 and 3 starter, you can't really count on those dudes to be the 2 and 3. When they signed Kluber, I remember tweeting it like, dude, let him be the number 5 starter. Who would be great if he pitches a no-hitter as a 5-star, but not as that 2. We were in the middle of April being like, who's pitching tomorrow? And I'm like, dude, just give me guys who are going to give me constant innings, who's not. Now, listen, it's easy for me. Don't get hurt. But how about we get guys with a track record of who's not getting hurt? Like Scherzer's on the market. Who cares about these young kids? We're again, conceited asshole fan. We're the Yankees. We don't care about 2023. Sell everybody. We'll buy them in a few years anyway. And that's how I was brought up. Is it wrong? Probably. But I'm like, dude, that kid Volpe everyone's talking about. The Martian, Dominguez. I don't want to get rid of them at all. But if you want to sell them, we'll get them in a few years when they're free agents. We need to win, and that's just not happening. We're trying to get youth with Cole. Like, what are we doing here? I don't know. That's why I want Theo Epstein. I'm getting a Theo Epstein tattoo on my arm soon.
Uh-oh. Well, Dog and I already told you that he's not going to be the GM of the Mets last show. I don't know if you listened to that, but we already told you who the Mets GM is going to be next year, and you could just not you, Mike. We'll just tell you off air, but
a teaser.
Yeah, you just go back and listen to the last show. We'll tell you who the Mets are going to name as their GM in the off season. We'll probably be right because that's what we do.
There you go.
You predict the future, of course.
That's right. Yeah, time machine stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, Mike, you had it right on there, right? You could take a shot at 1 or 2 guys, right? You can't do that in 4, and that was sort of our argument on that. Like you could take a shot on that, and again to your point, like the advantage of being the Yankees, right, is you can get a big money guy and be wrong and still go get the next guy, right? That's just like all these other teams. Like if you get Trevor Bauer and it didn't work out, you're done for the next 4 or 5 years. But the Yankees, okay, who's next, right? Just like with the Dodgers, right? The exact same mentality, right? That's it. If you like, why spend X amount just to lose, right? You might as well spend that extra 30 and win it. Right.
So, when it's like a draft pick, an NFL draft pick. If you draft a bad quarterback, your team sucks for 4 years. When the Royals, the Pirates, the Rays, when they sign a free agent and he sucks, they're done for 4 or 5 years. The Yankees do it. It's like a free agent pickup in the 7th round. No one cares and the Mets too. Listen, the Mets can make bad moves. We just brush it off. No big deal. And that's okay. That's what we do. And we're a big market team. We can do that. That's just life.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think there's also I'm not really playing devil's advocate. I mean, this is just the way I think. Like, you could want these guys all you want, but like Max Scherzer was not coming to the Yankees. He just wasn't. Like, you weren't gonna be able to make that trade because he was not going to come to the Yankees, and that was it. Like he said, he would have gone to the West Coast, and even the Giants, I don't think, went fully that hard on him because he said he more wanted to be in Southern California. Now, I don't know if that's like the be-all and end-all of facts, but look what happened with Garrett Cole. Like, he wanted to come to the Yankees. They gave him the money. But a lot of these guys, they don't necessarily want to do it. Like, Mike, you brought up the Knicks before. The Knicks had that PR problem for 27 years where, you know what? Guys were like, what the hell do I need to go there for?
Yeah.
I'm going to go in as a visiting player, and they're going to cheer me as a visiting
Mhm.
player at this point because their team sucks, and I'm going to win more games in the Garden as a visiting player than I am now it's finally different because they put their oars in the water here, and now they're all paddling the right way, but or rowing the right way. But like Dog off season, right? I'm going to give you a number, 302. What does that mean in today's baseball slate? Do you know what that means? 302 is that number.
No.
That's the amount of that's the amount of times that Adam Wainwright and Yadier Molina have been a battery as of today. 6 scoreless against the Mets in
Oof.
in freaking what is it? September 13th
That's
down the
pretty
stretch.
awesome.
8-1, and if he holds on, they're in the ninth inning at the point that we're doing this. If he holds on, he'll be 9-1 in his last 10 decisions. I, Dog, we talked about it on a winter day when it was snowing out,
Yep.
and I was like, if I'm the Yankees, I'm like taking Adam Wainwright and Yadier Molina right now. But they didn't. But I don't think. I think they only
They weren't
wanted
going
to
to
go back to the
That's
Cardinals.
a
That's
special
it.
case. Yeah.
But how much would those guys have helped the Yankees? And they wouldn't have cost a heck of a lot. But you gotta have the gumption from the other side. You gotta have these guys wanting to go there. And Safo will just sit there and be like bewildered, like, why the hell would anybody not want to go to the Yankees? But there are guys that just don't want to do it, or they're happy in other places. And there's also guys like Sonny Gray, who looked like he would be not necessarily a can't miss guy, but like he was a modern day Ed Whitson, basically, with the way that he couldn't handle New York. I mean, he even blocked the great Jerry Milani on Twitter, which is the only, like, I don't know how you could even do that by accident. So that's a bad job by,
Oh,
by Sonny Gray. But anyway, we could go on and on and on and on.
So we
I
need some
think we could.
pitching. We need some contact hitting. I think it's a safer plan.
Yeah, less
Okay.
strikeouts, but less strikeouts. To strikeouts is so. You watch the game and it's like, okay, first and second, no outs. Here's a strikeout, double play. The strikeouts. You look at the end of the game, like the Yankees struck out 16 times. Like my eyes just jump out of my head. 16. I know every team does it, but still.
I had it last night when the actually no Saturday I guess it was with the Mets were down 5-0 or whatever, and McNeil, like a contact hitter up there, total shift on. They're down 5-0 up the on. I'm like, I don't know, maybe hit it to the left side. I don't know. There's literally one guy in the entire thing. I'm like, you're not hitting home runs. You're a slap hitter right now. I'm like, will you just slap it?
That's your
Like,
job,
what are we
being a
doing?
slap hitter.
I'm like, seriously, you're good at that. That's what you do. I'm like, just doink. It can't be that freaking hard.
I think it.
It's just
I don't know if
mind-blowing.
it's
I'm
like
like-
agents or something like that have gotten in these guys' head that they think that they're not going to get paid if they have a great batting average for some reason. And guess what? If you get a hit, it is the same thing as getting on base via not a hit. Like meaning like. Joey Gallo, one of the he bunted today. He got himself on base with a bunt. And you know what? Maybe it changed his mindset. Maybe the Twins suck, maybe whatever, but he hit a home run later in the game. So maybe he was just so not used to feeling the ball contact his bat that
That's a great feeling.
I kind of like this.
Wow,
I remember
I'm on base.
Joey Gallo was like, oh man, when I used to play for the Rangers, I think every now and then I hit this ball. But it's that kind of thing. Like you encourage these guys to walk and do all this other stuff, and it is great. But like they should take a bunt every time it's there. There's
500.
no.
You did 500.
It's never going to be wrong. And guess what? The guy Mike Safo mentioned before. Bryce Harper. All through April, he was taking that bunt every single time. And you know what? He's probably the favorite for National League MVP. He's just carried it on and carried it on and carried it on. You'll get those times. Look, these guys are major leaguers. They're going to know when it's time to swing away, and they're going to know when it's the right pitcher where you're like, you know what? Like, I could definitely take this guy deep. Or, you know what? I might be able to take this guy deep, but, like, I'm definitely getting on first base. And, he's slow to the plate. I could probably steal second if I get there. you know. So I mean, we just got to see more of it. Like there has to be more of a player commitment to saying, I'm still going to get paid if I'm not trying to hit the ball over the fence all the time. And, my batting average is going to be high, and that's going to raise my on base percentage, and it's going to raise my OPS and all those stats that you do get paid for. But like hitting is hitting, and striking out is just, I don't know. I mean,
it's got to be organized. Like Michael was saying before, it has to be organizational, right?
yeah, it
I mean,
is.
are all these? I mean, the second year players sitting there like, oh, I'm just going to swing and pull it anyway? No way. That's
You know
because
what?
they're being brought up to do that. They're being told to do that by the
It's
cash-ins of the world. Dot dot dot.
Yeah, Dog, you
And
nailed it. Single A. Like, listen, obviously none of us play in the big leagues. I was always, when the game was over, which, I went 2 for 3 today. I went 3 for 5. That all you cared about was batting average. So if I'm in single A, I bunt 3 times, get my 3 hits. What? Hey, how's that kid? How's Mike Safo doing? Oh, we had 3 hits today. No one cares if it's a bunt. Now they're brought up, and I don't want to sound like the old guy in the room. Now they're brought up. Like, what you want? 1 for 5, 4 strikeouts, home run now. Oh, dude, he's doing good. That's all everybody cares about. No one cares about anything else at this point. I, if I was in the league, I'd fudge my numbers so bad. I'd have. That's all I would do is just bunt, little slap hits. Like that's it, man. Make your numbers look good.
Yeah.
Fudge that stuff, man.
yeah, it hit 400.
That's it.
Okay,
Yeah.
worked out for somebody I knew.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Ted Simmons talked about it in his Hall of Fame speech. He's like, eventually there's going to be another George Brett that comes in and he's going to hit 370 or 380. And we're going to, the batters are going to figure out that, they can hit through the way the pitchers are trying to pitch through the gigantic holes in their swing. And they're going to take advantage of all this room on the field that they haven't seen in generations. And, you're going to have a guy like that and everybody's going to get behind him and it's going to start to stem the tide and turn it back the other way. And, I hope he's right. I mean, there's a lot of great advocates that are, more like our age. I know, Mike, you're kind of like a generation or half generation behind the dog and I, but you still have that kind of thinking, I think, prevailing from, from your age and up. And it's a little more like the other ages and down where it's been this flip side of things. And Dog, you see it in the like even for the little leaguers, like you guys, Dog's got he's got a little stud there coming up through the ranks. And Dog, you're gonna start to see when he's getting looks, and they're he's going to these the PS2s of the world. They're gonna start evaluating like his launch angle and his exit velo and all this other stuff, and you're gonna be like sitting there scratching your head, and the
my
kid's gonna be
garbage.
like, yeah, but Dad, like that's the way, that's what they're looking at, to get people noticed. I mean, and Jeff Fry,
He's got to go to Princeton. That's his only chance.
yeah, that's his chance.
Come on, go to Coach Bradley.
Coach
Scott
Bradley.
Bradley. He was on my show. Bradley's the greatest, man.
He's
Yeah.
awesome. It's
Awesome.
fantastic.
Yeah, he had a great veteran of the day. You should go back.
Yes.
I listened to
Oh
your
my
show
God,
with him,
yes.
Mike. I listened to your show with him. You did a great job. The interview was totally different. A totally different interview with the same guy. It was about the same amount of time. I think I had him maybe for a little bit longer. Actually, Dog couldn't make that one. Dude, his dad was a freaking war hero. A stud. He was one of the studs
no
among
joke,
studs.
No joke. Word. Yeah.
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 One of the frozen chosen.
Yeah.
The other day, so
Insane.
he asked me, "You wearing the NYPD shirt?" So afterwards, he goes, "Hey, can you send me an NYPD baseball shirt?" I go, of course, coach." So I sent it to him, and I'm in Peru, and I get my service, and I look, I have like 91 Twitter notifications. I'm like, all right, either I tweeted something stupid when I was drunk.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like,
This
what?
is good or bad?
I was nervous. I'm like 90. I get 2 a day, 5 a day, 91. I'm like, what? I didn't even want to look. I click it, and Scott Bradley hung up the NYPD baseball shirt in the dugout on 9/11, and it got like he tagged me with your school. I got a few followers, but it had like 100 retweets, like 300 likes. But he put in, he's a good dude, man.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, he's great. I mean, so humble. Like he's forgotten more about baseball than anybody will know. Like I've actually like at times I cut up like one piece of that show, but like I could cut up that show and I want to do it and I will do it at some point with producer Xavier Rizzo. Like he talks about catching and catching technique and evaluating Gary Sanchez and he talks about like the one knee catching and I mean he just gets it. like he just needs to be listened to more, you know? Like he's on like a different level.
At a
Like
different level. And he does
and
it non-nerdy, if that makes sense. Like
I
he'll
know.
break it down like dudes at a bar drinking beer. This is why he shouldn't be on one knee. I'm like, yeah, you're right. It's not like, well, because 33% of the time the ball he gives it to you like, hey, this is the reason you do it. Idiot, listen to me. This is what, and like he's awesome. I love him. Like this guy needs he's the Princeton coach. I'm like, he can coach anywhere, that dude.
Yeah, he could. Yeah. I mean, if he could, how about we get him to manage the Yankees?
All in.
I want
all
one
in.
Mets.
Yeah,
Metsies,
the Mets.
please.
I don't
I'm
know,
all
dog.
in, baby.
Dog. You know I
Los,
love
Los Mets.
dog. You know I love Louis Rojas though.
You do.
Although we got to get
irrationally, but yeah, he's a nice
we got to
guy.
get Louis Rojas out of there. So when our guy Calvin Ziegler makes the Mets, 19 is available for him.
That is true.
Yeah.
Sacrifices have to be made.
But you know what's great? Joe's such a nice guy. He's like, well, he's not managing, but you know what? He's trying hard. Like Joe's like you're too nice, Joe. That's the problem. You know what? You're a bad fan. You're too nice. You know what? Like bad loss, but you're the Aaron Boone gut punch today. You know, you gotta be nasty, curse these guys out. You're like, oh, I like these dudes. Let's give him a few more years.
You know, you can't all be alpha dogs. I mean, that's I let the alpha dogs go do their thing, and I just they know I do my thing. I do my thing. I sometimes I do it in the shadows. Sometimes I take the spotlight. But it all works out in the end. I've been there for all the championships.
All right, toughest place for you to travel to. What was the toughest one to get into?
Afghanistan took a while.
Yeah.
Pakistan took a while. My friend's a cop with me. He's like, when I first met him, it's great. So when I first meet everybody, I always introduce myself. I'm like one of the senior guys. I'm like, oh, where are you from? Where are you from? Pakistan? Bro, stand to the side because I need to go to your country. So if I'd never been to the country, I'd become those are pretty difficult. Russia was a loophole because I went there for the World Cup. So I found a lot of loopholes. Like Saudi Arabia is very difficult to go to. But if you have a layover there, you can stay there. So I found like a 47-hour layover. So I got 2 days there. Russia's notoriously hard. Went there for the World Cup. China is very difficult. Did a 3-day layover. So a lot of that's layovers. A lot of the stands are difficult. Afghanistan was very difficult. Besides that, pretty much for the U.S., a lot of them are good. But, there's a few that you need, like Bhutan was difficult. You just need to get tour guides for. So I'm just crossing off the list. Right now, like I've never been to Ireland, but I've been to South Korea, so I'm going to places now where they're difficult to go to. I'm getting them all out of the way now.
Have you been to New Jersey, Stan?
I have. My mom lives down there, so she lives down the shore. So I was there yesterday, actually.
I prefer to call it the People's Republic of New Jersey.
Or the Democratic Republic of New Jersey.
Exactly. My Twitter feed is like 2/3 like energy, oil, and gas guys because I cover that for work and stuff. It's hilarious. Look at that. They're like a little New Jersey contingent. It's like, okay, two different worlds.
So Mike, I'm like working my way back through your archives. And I'm glad that I didn't even have to bring up the Afghanistan thing because I was just listening to your show with Noor, your guy Noor, and I was wondering. I saw people ask about it on Twitter, probably toward the end of August or the beginning of September. But if you have people on here that are listening, I don't know if you have an update, if you've heard from Noor or not.
I do, and I'll give the quick background. So to get to a lot of these countries, you need an LOI, a letter of invitation. So to go to Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, all these countries, you need a letter from someone there saying, I'm vouchering Mike Safo. If he does some stupid shit, we're arresting him. But whoever signs the letter, you're in trouble. So if I go to Pakistan, I act like an asshole. I'm in trouble. Obviously, I'm dead. And the family that sponsored me, they're in jail. Who knows what happens to them? So Afghanistan is notoriously hard to get one. So my angle is hey, bro, I do a podcast. You should come on and talk about Afghanistan. So Noor from Let's Be Friends Afghanistan.com comes on. We developed a relationship. He gave me a letter of invitation. I went to Afghanistan 2 months ago, showed me around Mazar-e Sharif. I was supposed to go to Kabul to watch a soccer match, actually, which is ironic.
Wow.
They blew up the school there, unfortunately. And he's like, you got to get the hell out of the country. Americans, you're not safe here. I left, and before I left, him and all the people I met were like, dude, the Americans can't leave. Why are you leaving? I'm like, homie, that's way above my pay grade. I'm not, I can't control that. Unfortunately, everything happened. in Afghanistan, and Noor was like marked for death because he hung out with Americans. And basically, if Americans, British, anyone from the West was there and you didn't report them to the Taliban, when the Taliban took over, they were going to kill you. And that's the bottom line. And for us to grasp it, we can't do it. We're like, okay, I'm sure. But they're like, no, you're with an American, we'll kill you. So he actually went into semi-hiding, not like his picture was going around. And he paid 3 different dudes for a Pakistan visa, an India visa, and a Dubai/Australian visa. He texts me Monday morning and he's like, hey, I'm leaving now. I'm getting one of these visas. I don't hear from him for 8 days. I'm like, he's dead. And I reached out to the other travelers that knew Noor, and I just get a link from Noor's phone. I click it. He was in Dubai. He got to Dubai, and then Australia actually gave him a 1-year visa. So he's right now. He's in Melbourne, Australia, in a hotel for 3 more days quarantining. So it's a happy story right now for Noor and his beautiful family. Yeah, he has a newborn and a 2-year-old son and a beautiful wife. So he's in Australia now. So he made it out, thank God.
Oh, that's a great story. That's great to hear.
Melbourne has been like the most locked down city in the world, by the way. Like
it's so funny. He put it on his Facebook, I believe. I don't have Facebook, but he put it on, and someone's like, without getting into politics, someone's like, bro, Afghanistan has more freedom right now than Australia.
No, I know.
I thought you were pretty close.
It really is. I see a lot what's going on there.
No, so that's my big one, and I've been there twice. And, I have a lot of, people in Australia that I follow and that I talk to. I know it's crazy. I mean, it is like you can't do anything. Especially Melbourne. Sydney is not as bad, but Melbourne is like, it's like, they're back to, somebody made a joke, like, yeah, they're back to being a country of prisoners like they were.
The penal colony. There we go.
Yeah. They can't do anything. They're just.
But here's why the rules of travel are wild. So just now, I went to Peru last week. And to fly to Peru, I just need a vaccination card from the United States of America. So I get to the airport. Here you go, Peru. Welcome to my country. On the plane, 2 masks. Unless you're eating or drinking, then the mask comes off. And they yell at you while you're online. Social distance, like while you're walking on the plane, and every seat was taken. So it's like, and then to come back to the United States, my vaccination card means nothing. I have to get a PCR test from any place in Peru. We're walking the streets of Cusco near Machu Picchu. Anyone do a PCR test? Okay. So like, this is like, it's so backwards. It's actually comical at this point. So I love the random rules of travel right now.
Oh man,
yeah,
that's nuts.
So have you been to Australia, by the way?
I have not. My wife, she wants to go to Australia, New Zealand. She's a big All Blacks fan from rugby.
Nice.
So yeah, I always told her, we have a list. So this is all 193 countries, and I gave her the list. So she marks it 1, 2, 3. 1, she doesn't care because I travel a lot alone. So a lot of the countries that I've won, she's like, go. I never want to go. That's when I hit up the stands. That's when I hit up like all the random countries. I'm in Oman and Bahrain. And she's like, yeah, dude, go there. I can care less. The 2 is I can go, but I kind of have to take her next time or try not to go. And 3, I can't go without her. And Australia and New Zealand are on there. And I told her, I said, the day they open up, I'm taking her there. Because we've been to a lot of places together. So those are the 2. She's dying to go to those 2. So
I have a country question.
Go ahead.
Is Burkina Faso 2 countries or 1?
1 country. And it's only, I only go by UN recognized countries. So 193, but I always add Taiwan, Hong Kong. So it's 195 for me. So
there you go. Don't
constant,
tell the CCP that.
No.
Nope.
It's good that you get China out of the way.
I know.
Or don't tell the NBA that either.
They're more regressive.
Wait, hold on. Was I just talking politics or basketball?
Basketball.
That was basketball. Man. That was basketball right there.
Man.
So what about, let's see, what about Italy? Have you been to that one?
I have. I've been to most of the regular European countries. I have.
Hold on. I'm going somewhere with this.
Okay.
Gibraltar?
Not a country.
Not recognized as a country, even
British possession. British
even in your eyes.
Yeah, well, you see, not in my eyes. Yes, he dug it in there. UN 193. So like a lot of the Caribbean islands. Yeah, so it's UN.
Okay, so you don't count those. Mm-mm. But have you been to Gibraltar?
I have not. For me, it'll be
Okay.
like I want to go there, but for me, it'll be like a waste. I'd rather go somewhere else than that place because so I can get a country checked off.
So, but Dog's been to Ireland,
Happy
right?
Ireland. Hmm.
So he's been to 83 countries, but I've been to Australia and, well, Gibraltar is not a country, but I have been there. And Dog's been to Ireland. So we got like countries that you don't even have. How is that
That's
even,
right.
how is that even possible?
Ireland, I'm
Iraq.
going there in December though. December 3rd, I'm going there.
Awesome.
Ah.
Yeah,
There you go.
there's some bands my wife wants to see, so I got tickets. We'll go out there for the weekends.
All right.
Okay, Dog, what about your,
West of Ireland, I can give you a hook.
What?
So Western Ireland, I can give you a hook.
I'll go there then. Anywhere for a hook, you know that.
There we go. There you go.
Dog, what other countries you got? You might have a couple that you could sneak past them from your
Kuwait.
military days.
Yes, Kuwait. I did the Kuwait, Oman, Bahrain little circle.
Okay, very
Kuwait
nice.
Kuwait was beautiful though.
Yeah, I didn't see much of that, although it was the hottest place on earth.
I gotta tell you, Dog, it's so funny. So my
late,
partner,
late August, 132 in the shade, and that's real. That's probably a measurement error with the thermometer. It's kind of given up.
Dog, you're a military guy. So my partner's in the Marines, and I'm like, yeah, you've been to Afghanistan. He's like, guy. Like, so when I'm going to Kuwait on like vacation. He's like, I'm like, bro, yo, it's nice there. He's like, no, it wasn't nice when I was there. I'm like, yeah, all right. I'm like, yo, I was in Saudi Arabia for 2 days. I'm like, bro, that mall, the Red Sea. He's like, no, guy, I didn't see the mall. I didn't see the Red Sea. I'm like, yeah, you're right. It's my bad. We weren't exchanging pictures.
I'm in the bus with the curtains. Yeah, look great.
The best Dog. I go, hey, did you get a stamp? He's like, no, I don't. I'm like, oh, because look at this passport stamp from someone. No, I didn't get a stamp. I said, no, that's not
Oh, one of my favorite travel stories actually was I think it was in Kuwait, going and putting my M16 through the scanner. So, the M16, all that, like literally military. I'm like, what are we doing this for?
That's so awesome.
Like, I'm just picking up on the far side here. What
That
is
is
going
so
on?
awesome.
It was like September 18 in 01. It's like, yeah, let's put the thing through while they're guarding it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, sure, yeah, let's do this. So yeah, did have Iraq too. So I got to see a little bit more of Iraq, but so that was my other off the run.
You have Iraq, Mike?
Guatemala was a goodie.
Yo, I was just in Guatemala in 3 months ago. We did El Salvador, Guatemala together.
Oh,
Again,
nice.
mine was probably a little different than yours.
That was good. Well, well, actually, no, that was a guard one, so that wasn't too
Okay.
bad. I was building roads. It was
Okay.
a happy time. So
Then I drove
it was
over
good.
afterwards. So thank you for making the border nice and easy.
Oh,
For
I
me.
tell you, it was funny. We actually did roads right after the Civil War.
Wow.
And it was a great story. We were down there for 6 months. It's a big rotation. I was only for a couple weeks of it, but the road, it was Central America 1, like the main road. And where we built, you could take like a tractor trailer with like a truss up, like the whole deal, right? Like, 40-foot trailer or whatever up this thing. Like where we stopped on the far side, like we didn't have a Humvee there. We just had a Chevy Blazer or whatever. I'm like, I can't even take the Blazer on that thing. It was that bad. Like, that's what that road was like prior to it. I mean, literally, it was like night and day. Oh yeah, like I opened like a sawmill and stuff. It was pretty wonderful.
Wild.
That was one of my best military times on there. So really
cool. You got a cool stamp from that? No.
Still no cool stamp.
Yeah.
No passport. I did try and speak Spanish at one point, and it was like, Plus, I scared the holy shit out of him. To be honest, I'm like a 6'2" American, like in my uniform, showing up, talking like my high school Spanish to him. I'm like, I'm almost set.
That's what
this guy's like, I'm gonna die.
Were you studying it, Dog? Or was your high school Spanish, or did you?
A little high school Spanish, a little bit after too. So enough that I could screw up. Now I had a little Arabic too, so now I can't speak anything.
That's impressive. That's
so
one of the hardest in the world
I'm talking. I could schmooze.
Wow. I'm
So
impressed.
that was about it. So. But it's good. It's good stuff. Yeah, travel is fantastic. That's for sure.
I love it, man. I do. I'm obsessed with it. I really am.
So
Iraq was a yes or a no for you?
It's a no, and here's why. Because I feel it's a loophole. Because I can go to Erbil, which is like
it's so nice. I never get up there. That's
it's actually gorgeous. The third safest city in the world, and the travelers. And this is going to sound really corny. Some people are like, oh, that's kind of a loophole to go to Iraq. So that's why it's like I haven't gone there yet. I can go to Erbil. It's the USA, and we can fly there tomorrow. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's safe. I don't know if people would really consider it Iraq. So that's why I'm holding off on going there.
I think Iran just attacked it, to be honest. So it might be up there. You might get a little bit more credibility points.
Yeah, I might get street credit.
I think they just whacked it like a day or two ago, but yeah. You have to check my Twitter.
You might get street cred, or you might get street dead at this point if you go there.
Yeah, it's funny,
just a little drone.
We have to
little drone, big plane, little drone.
we have to fill out like a leave of absence report when we're leaving the country. So I put in for 3 days, and you read what everything's Aruba, Bahamas, Florida, and I swear mine's like Mazar-i Sharif, Afghanistan. Uzbekistan, and they call
the death sergeant has to be like, you gotta be kidding.
Yeah.
Like every time.
He calls me like, guy, really? Just put a fucking regular country down. I'm like, yeah. Like he gets pissed because I'm writing these like whack, and I'm only going for a few days. He's like, bro.
Like, who's approving this?
Yeah. It's like the last one was it was Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and Islamabad, Pakistan. And the captain's like, bro, what I wonder why you're going there. But now everyone knows, and everyone's like, yeah, I know he's going to those weird places. When I get stopped and they have to call to verify my employment, it's like, yeah, he's an idiot.
Oh man.
He goes to Montreal.
Yeah.
He goes to Montreal. Sarge's like, okay, cut the bullshit.
Yeah.
What's going on?
There's
no way that you went to Montreal. That's too close.
Oh, you went to Montreal. Oh, woo. Have you been to Israel?
I have, yes. Gorgeous.
And they still let you go to the Arab countries even if you have the stamp? That used to be the big no-no, I thought.
That's a very good job by you. 2 things on that. One, I actually strategically planned it on the last page of my old passport.
There you go. Smart move.
When I went there, they asked my employment, and I told them, New York City Police Department, and they said, do you want us to stamp your passport? I said, I'd rather you not if you don't have to. And they didn't stamp it. Cool. I actually strategically did it because it would have affected me going
you would
30-some countries. You can't let go there anyway. Yeah. That's an old school travel question. I'm impressed.
I follow along here. Yeah. You still have the clearance, So
Healy's a fake last name. His real last name is Foders.
Oh, man.
Wow, I think we learned some stuff. I hopefully we left some stuff for like the next time. So the next time Dog gets tied up, I know I'm calling for the co-hosting duties.
The next time, Joe, we have to talk about Opie. We didn't talk about Opie, so next one we'll do Opie talk.
Oh yeah, well, I got to talk to Dog offline, see if he can keep up with that. I can't remember.
I'm gonna need a little studying, to be honest.
I don't know if that's even gonna be worth it for you, to be honest. That's like a whole other thing.
That's like inside baseball stuff when you talk about that.
That's like too inside baseball. You might have to do that on yours.
Yeah, let's do it.
There you go.
That would be yeah, because I'm like I'm back from like the NEW days.
Oh, me too. Yeah, I see. You know what happens once you bring it up? We'll talk about it. I have over 2,000 cassettes of them.
Wow.
We'll talk about that next. Yeah, like that'll be the cliffhanger. I had just the quickest story, I promise. My buddy of mine goes to school in Boston, and he calls me up, and he's like, "Listen, there's this radio show, Opie and Anthony. They start in a few days down in New York. Can you do me a favor and just tape the show and send it up to me to Boston?" They were like these really funny, crazy Howard Stern type guys. I'm like, "All right, dude." I would come home. I used to listen to Mike and the Mad Dog. So I had my other radio, and I wasn't even listening to Opie and Anthony. I would just hit record, 45 minutes, beep, flip it, and send it up to this kid. And then after like a month, he gave me like 100 tapes back. I threw them in my closet, and I started listening to them. And when they got fired for the Sex for Sam, I was on like one of the message boards, and they reached out to me. I was the only ones that had like, I think maybe not the first few shows, but like shows 10 through 30. I was the only person who still had the tapes of them. So I'm like, I was like, I'm going to sell them. And it's like, yeah, dude, you can't sell them. You're not allowed. Because I wasn't allowed to sell it to their property. So I just like gave it to them. Yeah, I had like thousands of cassettes of them. So yeah, I was like this crazy. I was a crazy fan of them. Yeah.
Listen, we can't give play-by-play here, but we have Mike. He had a lot of tapes. Opie and Anthony, the good Dog.
Back after this,
can't sell it. Can't sell it.
Dog, we can't do that.
Can't legally.
Big, Coach Cal fan. Okay, he's got the autographed ball over the left shoulder.
I'm very close with Coach Cal. We had dinner a few times together.
Okay, listen, I'm not dropping names or anything, but I was at Coach Cal's house watching the Yankee game.
I'm not dropping names. I baptized his daughter Megan and Aaron. No big deal.
All right. Tell everybody how they can find your podcast and anything else you want to pitch, Mike Safo.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you guys for having me on. I'm actually a huge fan. So this is like humbling to have me on, man. You had Rookie of the Year Greg Olson on, then you had me. I don't know if you're going downhill or if you guys are just digging for guests, but thank you for having me on, man. This was an absolute blast just to kick it. And your style of interviewing is awesome. It's just, I love that it's not, hey, Mike, why did you do that? Like, it was so awesome, man. I had a blast. You can follow me on Twitter at Mike Safo. You're just going to see pictures of me traveling, ranting about the Yankees and Kentucky and all the books I read. And just type Mike Safo in any of the podcasts. I have a bunch of cool guests coming up, and it goes from Jake the Snake Roberts to the dude who killed Bin Laden to Omar from The Wire to best-selling author Eric Larson, Kurt Schilling. So I get astronauts, anyone who I feel is halfway intriguing, I beg to come on my show, and I break them down till they say yes. So that's it. So the Mike Safo podcast, and follow me on Twitter at Mike Safo.
All right. That's going to do it. You can follow us. You can follow the dog on Twitter at Jeff Healy 8. That's the number 8. And you can follow me. I run the show Twitter at Diamond Diehards. I've been concentrating more on that one than my old existing one for Rear Naked Choke Radio. But if you're into MMA, you could go check that out and hit those archives for Rear Naked Choke Radio. Big Ed's Car Wash, Fair Lawn, New Jersey. Next time you're over there, you come across the border, Mike Safo, you can stop by Big Ed. Let me know first. We'll get you hooked up. Dog, next time you come up to the Riz compound.
Stretch. We can fit the stretch in.
We can fit the stretch. You can fit a super stretch in there. FMSgraphics.com for all your printing and promotional needs. And if you need some nice, wonderful piece of art for your sports fan or your sports fan self, Sports Maps with a Z, SPORTSMAPZ.com. They help make Diamond Diehards possible. So that is going to do it. We thank our guest, Mike Safo, for joining us. And I will say I am very appreciative that you gave us all of this time. I think we were asking for like 45 minutes, and we went much longer than that. So I appreciate Mike Safo coming on, and we look forward to having you on again sometime in the future. For the dog, Jeff Healy, this is Joe Rizzo. Diamond Diehards is out.